Podcasts.
We are Fox Sports.
And here's what you need to know.
From the Goldberg Jones Sports Desk, your 620 Rip City Radio headlines. Goldberg Jones. Call 1-800-DIVORCE. Home of the OSAA is 620 Rip City Radio. The Rip City Drive with
Q, who is in Las Vegas. We're going to get the insight on the Raiders and what are the key events that led to the firing of Josh McDaniels. We'll get the latest from your boy Q at 5, and we'll talk with Dave Deckard, BlazersEdge.com, here in 20 minutes to get his take on the Trailblazers. And more importantly, a question we're going to deal with on the show today, what do you do with Scoot Henderson and Shaden Sharp once Anthony Simons makes his return? What's up, Godfather?
Happy to be here, Chad.
Yes, I'm sure you are. And we got YouTube. You got the screen in front of you. How's the camera? Is it adjusted well? Are you centered where you need to be, Godfather?
I have no idea because they haven't shown me yet. I think Shacker is focusing on you, the lead man in the show. I'll get a scene here and there, but now we're working on a little split screen action right now.
All right, split screen. So go to YouTube.com. Our homepage is Rip City Radio 620. Subscribe to the page, and you'll find the live link there every day where you can join us via YouTube if you desire. I want to start with the college football playoff rankings, Godfather, which are going to come up at 4 o'clock on ESPN. I mentioned in the update, I don't expect any changes with the top 6. I think it's going to remain the same because there were no real games to cause any major change over the weekend. The only case I would make is the same one I would have made last week, and I was surprised to see Washington sitting just on the outside looking in at 5. I think maybe Washington moves up to 4 after the win over USC. I was a little frustrated that the committee didn't give Washington more respect after the victory over Oregon. Maybe they looked at the wins over ASU and Stanford and weren't impressed. But that's the only change. But I would expect the top 6 to remain the same with your top team being Ohio State, Georgia, Michigan, Florida State, with Washington and Oregon being the first 2 teams out.
Yeah, I saw various people trying to forecast what the committee was going to do, and I only saw one of those that bumped Washington up to 4 and dropped Florida State down to number 5. And that's the only one I saw that did that. All the rest were the same as last week, and that's what I expect too, Chad. It's going to be different, though, after this weekend, huh? You think?
I think so. There's some big games coming up. The good news is now I think the Pac-12 is in the clear, assuming that Washington or Oregon handles business. It should be an open path to get into the playoff because of Oklahoma taking 2 losses and Texas taking that loss to Oklahoma. I don't think that those teams could jump them. The only thing that could possibly punk a Pac-12 team would be that rare possibility of Bama edging Georgia by a last-second field goal, and then they're stuck with a situation where you have the SEC champ and Bama and a one-loss Georgia team who barely lost the SEC title game, has won back-to-back championships, and it was their first loss in like just over 2 years. That's the only scenario that I could see where a Pac-12 team could get left out, assuming that Florida State remains unbeaten. But it's unlikely that that scenario will take place, I would think.
Yeah, I think you'd like to see Bama or Georgia collect a loss along the way somewhere just to give them that extra loss and then hope that that team wins the conference championship game. And then, that makes a whole different scenario there.
Yeah, I don't trust the committee. But what I love about this Saturday, Godfather, you mentioned it, it could provide some clarity. And if it's not this weekend, it's going to happen over the next couple of weekends because a lot of these tough teams are going to enter into some very difficult games. And this weekend is one of those weekends. Oregon's going to host USC. They're favored by 15. We expect them to handle the Trojans with relative ease. Utah will play at Washington. I expect Washington to have success there. But the problem is when you're playing Utah and they're so good defensively and then get pressure on the quarterback, that's a dicey game. I expect Washington to win, but you don't want to get into a situation where you're not clean or you make some mistakes or you put your quarterback in a position where he's under a lot of pressure because if Utah is able to force turnovers and they're able to run the football, and we saw the Washington defense look a little bit suspect against USC on Saturday, Utah is a team you don't want to mess with.
Yeah, for sure. And I think at the very worst, Utah is going to hold the score down in that game. And that may not make the Huskies look as good as they want to look in a game where there's some idea that they should blow them out. Pretty much you saw what Oregon did against Utah. You'd think Washington feels some pressure to kind of match that.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is, I think, one of those examples where you'll see the difference between the defense that Oregon has and the way they play and the pressure they can put on a team compared to Washington, who has their issues defensively. Now, Georgia, they got a couple of games coming up that they'll be favored in, but they're tough. They're going to meet Ole Miss at home this weekend, and Ole Miss is one of the top teams in the country, and then they travel to Tennessee. Florida State will host Miami. If there's any game on Florida State's schedule where you think maybe they could lose, this is a game here that even though they're playing at home, Miami's going to have a chance. We'll see how it plays out. And then you got this big game with Michigan traveling to Penn State. The one defense I'll give of Michigan this year, and it's one of the few things I like to see from one of the top teams in the country. They haven't played anybody. They don't have a resume, but at least the teams they've played, they have destroyed.
Yeah, for sure.
They've dominated competition.
Yeah.
That's the least you can ask of a top team that's in the top 4. Hey, these are the teams that are in front of us on the schedule. We have hammered them.
That's all they can do.
Now they'll get a much bigger test at Penn State, and, of course, they're going to play Ohio State coming up here at the end of the year. So we'll find out what Michigan's about.
Chad, Penn State's another one of those teams that can't score. That's what bothers me about Penn State. I think their defense is okay, but, gosh, they have a terrible time putting up points.
Yeah, it's an issue. Very similar to what we're seeing with Oregon State. They do a lot of things well, but they don't trust their quarterback enough to open it up. And the problem is when you're playing Michigan, you're going to probably have to put 30-plus points up on the board to get the win. And I don't know if they feel comfortable doing that because they know if they do that, they're going to open themselves up to some mistakes. But if you try to play it close to the vest, you try to play a field position game and kick field goals against Michigan, you're going to lose.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to open it up on offense. And, I watched that horrible game, Ohio State, Penn State, a couple of weeks ago, and it was the same thing.
Yeah.
2 good defenses, but 2 offenses that just couldn't produce the points. And Ohio State's going to run into a similar issue. They're not exactly lighting up the scoreboard, but their defense has been sensational. So how's that going to play out when Ohio State and Michigan play? But all the questions that you have, don't worry about it, Duck fans. Handle business and allow these other games to play out. And as long as you take care of the games that you have in front of you, you're going to be fine.
I think we're both agreed, Chad. If they win out, they got no problem, right? I mean,
the only issue that I saw was, like I said, if the committee's sitting there and you have Alabama as an SEC champ and they beat Georgia by a field goal, what's the committee going to do? I know what everyone here will say. Oh, you got to take the conference champ, Oregon, who's been dominant. Yeah, I understand that. I agree. But that doesn't mean the committee's not going to feel tempted to put two SEC teams in, especially when the team with one loss, if it's a close game to Alabama, it's a team that hasn't lost a game in almost 2 years or over 2 years, and they won back-to-back national championships. And you know Georgia is going to be, in that scenario, they'd be campaigning hard to get in.
Yeah, and let's take a look at history. How often has that committee felt the urge to take care of the Pac-12 champion?
No.
They don't.
Well, I just don't feel like they feel the urge to take care of any conference more so than the SEC. And it's hard to argue with that because they're the conference has dominated the playoff. They're the ones that collect the most championships, and that's kind of how it plays out. So we'll see. I would imagine in the Big Ten, based on the scheduling, that whoever loses the Michigan-Ohio State game is probably out. But I'm just telling you, Georgia, a one-loss Georgia in a close game to Alabama in the SEC title game, that's the only thing that I think could possibly punk Washington or Oregon. But unless, of course, that team is undefeated. If Washington wins, they're in. They're squarely in if they were to go unbeaten. But we don't expect that to happen. We think Oregon's would win that rematch game.
Well, and you're giving Oregon State a shot at them too, right?
To beat Washington?
Mm-hmm.
I am. Yeah, I think Washington will likely end up with 2 losses. If they get past Oregon State and they wind up in the Pac-12 title game unbeaten, then the pathway's pretty clear for them. They win that game against Oregon and beat them twice, they're in without question.
But if they're undefeated going into that game and Oregon beats them, it makes the Ducks look pretty good.
I would make the argument that if you're a Duck fan, you probably want Washington to just keep winning.
Yeah.
So that way, when they get into the Pac-12 title game, Washington could be sitting there at number 3.
They could be.
They could be a top 4 team in the country, and then Oregon beats them, and they can look back and say, hey, we handled every game on our schedule. Our only loss was a missed field goal at the end of regulation against Washington in their house. And we cold-cocked them here in our second matchup.
We avenged that loss.
Yeah. And you're taking out a top 4 team. That's another game that goes on your resume. That looks good.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can look back and say, we beat Utah, we beat Oregon State, we took care of business against USC, and we beat Washington when we got our rematch. That's a good scenario.
Yeah, my guess is Oregon fans won't have any trouble rooting for Washington to beat Oregon State.
I don't think so. I don't think so. It's one of those, it's kind of a win-win scenario, right? If Oregon State beats Washington, they can jump on social media and crack on Dog fans. If the Huskies beat Oregon State, they can say, good, stay undefeated so we can get a piece of you in the Pac-12 title game.
Right.
It's not too often you can have a win-win scenario in sports. It's going to be good. I'm looking forward to these games down the stretch. We'll come back. We got to talk a little basketball with Dave Deckard of Blazers Edge. And I want to ask him what the plan will be when Anthony Simons makes his return. What is the plan going to be? All right, we got Blazer tickets that we're going to give away coming up at 5 o'clock, and it's for the Cavs game that's coming up.
We got some wrestling tickets, too.
AEW Wrestling is coming to Moda Center on November 8th. That's tomorrow.
Yeah.
And we got 2 pairs to give away right now. So if you'd like a pair of tickets for AEW Wrestling tomorrow at Moda Center, call now, 503-248-0620. 503-248-0620. We'll take the first 2 callers through. You get a pair of tickets for AEW Wrestling.
And there's an added bonus to that. I will be there in person tomorrow night, Chad, and people are free to accost me at their own risk.
Yeah, because Dwight loves people, so you should roll up on him. All right, call
Yes,
now,
I do.
503-248-0620. If you'd like AEW Wrestling tickets, we got a pair of tickets for the Blazers to give away at 5. And we'll talk with Dave Deckard next here on the Rip City Drive. All right, it's time to head out to the phones right now. Our next guest is the man behind BlazersEdge.com. He's on Twitter at Dave Deckard, and he's back on the show. What's up, Dave?
Owen.
Hey, it's great to hear your voice, my friend. It's always good to talk with you. And I think we'll start out with this because you wrote about it, and I think you did a heck of a job, and so does Dwight. What are your thoughts so far on the new production with the Trailblazers television broadcast?
Oh, we're going to go there, are we? Well, I mean, I think they have a lot of veteran competence there. Obviously, Kevin Calabro is as accomplished as anyone in this league. I love Lamar Hurd. I think he does a great job of explaining things. I think that's their central core. And as long as they have that, they'll never go too wrong. Brooke Olsendam, of course, is familiar to Portlanders and does a great job at connecting viewers to the team. My question is, I mean, have they been focused and targeted enough, maybe formal enough, I might say, to allow space for those people to shine? Because it sure seems like a lot of other personalities are trying to get through that screen to our couches, and maybe the casual approach and the banter approach kind of is obscuring that trio that they've relied on so long. And it just kind of ends up in a muddy mess of, pregame, postgame, halftime, in-game. Are we watching replays? Are we hearing from people? Are we conveying the action? I don't know. My main complaint is they brought on Tom Haberstroh, who is an expert, and then immediately they make him look like a non-expert by never referencing him at all, except for quizzing him on trivia that anybody at a bar could answer. So I think they cleaned that a little bit up their last broadcast, and that was fine. But, look, I'm not mad at it. It's not bad. I think it just could be better.
It's funny, Dave. I think you have a nice reach, a good impact, because after you wrote that, they did change a lot about the way they use Tom, who's a good guy, and we know him from NBC. I think used properly, he would be a real good addition to their team. What I wanted to ask you about, though, is something quite different than that. It's the screen. And people seem to really like that they put the subs on the screen. Who substituted for who? They've got a lot of stats up there now. I don't know. Maybe I'm an old timer. I don't like the screen all clogged up like that. I like to just be able to see what's on the screen. Know what I mean? Does that affect you at all, or do you like what they're doing?
I could go either way. I understand what you're saying, I think, because you and I came up in an era where this was about people, right? And it was literally about the people on the court.
Yeah.
Like when you said Bill Walton, you meant Bill Walton, not my impression of Bill Walton, right? And nowadays with social media, with everybody having a microphone and whatever, what's happening is secondary in some ways to how people talk about what's happening. And so you have a lot of people who follow the game simply so they can crunch the stats or make their point or observe what they want to observe. And I think the information kind of helps that. I think to a limited extent, that is very helpful. It connects you to the game. If they overdo it, it overshadows the game. And really, it's on a spectrum. I think you're arguing that it might be a little too much. For some people, it might be a little too little. I think they're always struggling to find the happy medium. I'm not upset about it. I use the information sometimes, but often I just look past it and I still look to the players and the play.
We're talking with Dave Deckard, BlazersEdge.com here on the Rip City Drive. There's a good, healthy debate that's developing in Rip City on social media in regards to Scoot Henderson. What do you think the team should do with the starting lineup when Anthony Simons returns?
Well, honestly, is it Scoot or Anthony? Because it's kind of both, right? The Blazers are borrowing wins here by putting Matisse Thybulle and Malcolm Brogdon in the starting lineup. And immediately that lineup solidified. The defense looked pretty good. Shaedon Sharpe had a lot more platform to stand on, so now his defensive efforts stand out a lot more. And that veteran presence just kind of calmed everything down, and they got 3 wins that they might not otherwise have gotten. The thing is that no matter how well Malcolm Brogdon or Matisse Thybulle do, it's not long-term going to affect the team. And also, like the bench is empty, and also the Blazers aren't going to win consistently, even with those 2 in the starting lineup. So it's a debate. Do you want to go through for every win that you can get right now, then those veterans should probably stay in or close to the starting lineup. But if the goal is to develop players and eventually grow into something better than this, then you better get Scoot back in there. And Anthony, I think there's no debate. I mean, the offense is terrible now without him. They need his offensive presence in there. They've got to find a way to get him in and get him touches. I think he's an automatic reinsertion. I think Scoot probably is too, but if you're going to debate one of them, I guess he's the one you would debate.
Curious what you think so far about the way they're playing. I thought I gave Chauncey Billups some positive vibes yesterday. I think I'm seeing, first of all, obviously the defense is better, but second of all, I kind of like what they're doing offensively. They can't make shots still, and I don't know if they ever will with what they have now, but they are moving the ball, moving bodies a little bit. It's popping once in a while, and I like that better than maybe what I saw previously.
Yeah, I agree with you. I've written a little bit about this for tomorrow's post. Look, they're making the right play. They're making the right passes. As you identify, though, they simply don't have enough three-point shooting. They are worst in the league in that category. Their effective field goal percentage is at the bottom of the league. They're 29th in true shooting percentage, so they're not generating free throws to make up for it. And basically what you're ending up with, long story short, way too much half-court offense. Remember the beginning of the season, defense was the focus, and they've improved that. They're kind of middle to middle top of the league right now in defense. Huge improvement. But the point of improving that defense was to generate tempo and quick offense. They are 24th in the league in pace right now, meaning they're not really getting out and running. And without those easy points, the deficit, the flaws in their half-court offense are exposed without anything to balance them. If they could score another 10 points a game on the run, they'd be fantastic, but it's not even close to happening right now, and that's a really big ask out of this young defensive team. And so, yes, full credit on the defense. I think they're making use of their athleticism. I like that they've gone more man-to-man. I think they're lightning quick when they help each other, and they're even doing a good job recovering and, as long as Ayton is in there, rebounding. All of that's great. But their offense is just flat out horrible right now, and you're getting the shell or skeleton of a system without seeing any of the results.
How much is the Robert Williams injury going to impact that second unit?
I mean, it's tough, and it's not that he was having that huge of an impact, but it's just that they're so dang thin. And especially when you consider that DeAndre Ayton has been up and down, which is another huge question with this team right now. They have obviously been better when Ayton has played well, but he has not played well every game, and they have not been feeding him or encouraging him every game. There might be reasons for that. I get it, but the reality is they have one center right now, and he is it. With Williams gone, what other big men do they have? I mean, I guess they can trot out Jabari Walker, but he hasn't been playing that well. Jeremy Grant is more of a small forwards game in a power forward body. So he's not going to rebound. His defense has been okay on the perimeter, but he's not going to defend in the lane. They've got nothing. So they better pray that DeAndre Ayton can play 42 minutes a game and does really, really well. Otherwise, this is going to get really grim really quickly.
What are your thoughts on Tamari Kamara so far, Dave?
Oh, love it. I mean, first of all, look at his body. I think that's the first thing that you notice. It's not just that he's tall, he's solid, right? And you look at him move, and he moves like an athlete. He can cut left and right really quickly. He's got long arms, and he seems to have a nose for how to get in front of the play instead of react to the play defensively. You've got to love that. So I'm excited about this guy. Obviously, he needs experience. His shot needs work. But look, if you're looking at a long-term project, kind of a guy to cook at 250 in the oven or in the slow cooker for a long time, but he's going to come out really, really good, this is your guy. And so I think the Blazers have the potential at least of having gotten a steal in that trade, and no arguments there with his acquisition. He's been a real eye-opener.
You know, one thing we've seen, Dave, once he gets really 30 minutes or more in a game, he's been pretty productive. What are your thoughts on the development in this system for DeAndre Ayton?
Well, look, it's a question mark, right? He has a reputation of not always being on his game. And I'm guessing Coach Billups is wanting to kind of boundary, his minutes, and his playing style. So he will do the right basic things first and then grow into the rest of his game. That's kind of like the candy, the offensive touches and what have you. However, the problem is if you don't get him those touches, how is he going to stay connected other than rebounding? And those rebounds, by the way, are going to be his natural. There's nobody else to rebound. He's going to get 12 a game with his eyes closed. So he's got that, but what else does he have? What else does he give? And it's balance between feeding him enough to keep him motivated to do the right things and getting him to do the right things so that you reward him by feeding him enough. I do not think that they found that balance, and especially when other teams have pressured him, they've not found a way to get him active. And that's a big problem because without him, they lose basically a third of the court to just dead space on offense, and that only makes their problems worse when everybody else tries to score.
I'm curious what you think of Malcolm Brogdon's future here, Dave. Obviously, he's been a big help, and that studying influence and his outright ability to play basketball have been important. But is this a guy you want to hold on to for the whole year? Do you see him as more a trade piece? How do you feel about his future here?
Oh, I love him and Thibault both. I mean, look, if this team were getting ready to make a run to the Western Conference Finals and maybe beyond, I want Brogdon and Thibault on this team. I could not ask for two better players on the wing than them. But how long will it be until we're ready to say that? 4 years, minimum?
Yeah.
And at that point, Brogdon's old, and you've paid money to keep him just to do what? He's indispensable on this team, but he's indispensable in taking them from, 20 wins to 30 wins. Does that really make a difference? I'm not sure. So I see him as absolutely valuable, wonderful, probably also a trade piece exactly for that reason. And because he's going to do something for Miami or New Orleans or some other franchise that his skills won't be able to do here, he'll be happier. The Blazers will get a future return, and he'll still be a fantastic Malcolm Brogdon. That said, I'm going to be sad to see him go, but he probably needs to.
It's Dave Deckard, the man behind BlazersEdge.com here in the Rip City Drive. Final question for you. The in-season tournament, it was a big deal for Commissioner Silver. I'm just curious your thoughts because it seems the players and the majority of fans have no idea what's going on.
Well, I mean, the rules are a little complex, right? So we need to get used to it a couple of times. But here's the thing. I mean, look, Portland's 1-0 so far in the group play. If by some miracle they win those games, which it's possible because, as you say, other teams who have more to play for may be overlooking them or not really care. If the Blazers could get in the, inaugural NBA Cup, like semifinal round, that would be a huge, huge bonus to them. So for a team like Portland, I think it could be huge. But I think the rest of the league and overall, it just needs some proof of concept, and we're going to have to ride through it together. Again, personally, I would go back to the whole rule system or the tournament system being a little bit too complex to grasp. If I have to watch a 2-minute video to figure out how this thing works, it's not speaking to my heart. And I think they just need to get some more, guts and heart behind the momentum in order to really make it a success.
All right, Dave Deckard, BlazersEdge.com. Dave, we always love talking ball with you. Keep up the good work, and we'll talk again soon. And I know you've got a date now, which is pretty exciting for Blazers Edge Night, and we're going to talk more in depth about this in the future. But it's now been set March 13th of next year, 2024, Blazers and Hawks, and there's a page, a story right up on the homepage. You'll see it right at the top of BlazersEdge.com with the link to be able to buy tickets. And you can purchase to send kids, disadvantaged youth who have never seen an NBA game in their lives to go to a game. That's pretty exciting, Dave. I'm glad you got the date set and it's official.
Absolutely, and it's super easy. You buy tickets from the Blazers just as if you were buying them for yourself, but instead they go into the holding pen and get distributed to people who are in need, which is a fantastic thing for students in classrooms and counseling and teams across the area. So we hope you will do that between now and March and help send a couple thousand kids to see the Blazers next spring.
Well, we were in need of some NBA knowledge, and you provided that today, so we appreciate it, buddy, and we'll talk soon.
Absolutely. We'll talk to you later.
There you go. Dave Deckard, BlazersEdge.com here on the Rip City Drive. So we'll get to this coming up at 4, but it sounds like Deckard is more in our camp in terms of what to do with the starting lineup when Ant and Scoot are both healthy.
Yeah, and he makes all the sense in the world. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to hold on to Thibault and to Brogdon for what? 4 years from now when they have a chance to make a run at this thing?
Yeah.
Maybe, but that's a long time from now.
No, it's all about the player development. And by the way, Michael Shacker, could you have found a more flattering picture of Dave Deckard than the one where he's holding his cat?
That was the best picture on the internet, and there's a microphone. It was like that's what I envisioned him doing while talking to you guys.
He may have been doing that while he was talking to us today.
Yeah, he was sitting in the gamer chair, too.
I'll tell you one thing we're going to do here, or I'm going to do in about 3 minutes. I've got to close the blinds behind you because we got the glare from the outdoors coming in.
Oh, really?
I didn't even think about that. I'm so used to having the blinds open because we've had sunshine for the last, 4 or 5 months. That's about to end all at once here now that we're entering into the dark months of the Northwest.
That's what I was going to say, Chad. How could there be any glare? We haven't seen any sun. It must be from the lights in the hallway or something. I don't know.
Boy, Tamani Kamara, his arms, he's got Kevin McHale arms.
Yeah.
Seeing him in person at the game on Sunday, just watching his arms, I couldn't take my eyes off of him because I'm like, how can they be that long? And he's willing to work. He actually, this is a concept here in Portland we haven't seen in a while, but seeing guys actively run around the floor with purpose to play defense was very refreshing.
Yes, he definitely enjoys defending, which is a real change.
I noticed that. And he was talking a little bit of a mess. He was chirping.
Yeah, he'll talk trash. Yeah.
And I think he understands that guys in the NBA, established players, offensive players, they don't like guys like him who are willing to get up in their grill and defend them.
Yeah, he's a pest.
Yeah. He's an irritant.
Mhm.
Every team could use a player like that. But that type of length, you get into the passing lanes, you create problems, and you might set a tone in practice, which can lead to games where other guys see the way he's defending, and that can help. It's a good thing.
It's going to be interesting to see him play against some of the prime offensive players in the league and see if he gets under their skin a little bit.
Well, that's coming because Sacramento tomorrow,
Mhm.
Lakers in LA on Sunday. So, and that's really what I want to see, this defensive improvement, which has been nice. They're working hard. How's that going to hold up against some of the better offensive teams in the NBA?
Yeah, I'd like to see him against LeBron, see what happens. LeBron gets a little bit irritated sometimes.
He does. The problem with LeBron for a guy like Tamani, like he's strong, and you think you're strong, and then you run up against LeBron.
Right.
He's just physically imposing. And after he put out the alert to the officials that he's not getting the calls, and the team stepped up and complained after that loss last night.
Yeah. Oh, man. He's going to get calls for months now.
That's why the team does it, because
Yeah.
they know if they send out the concerns to the NBA that their prized LeBron James is not happy, the memo's going out to the officials.
Well, usually teams only do that in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But, of course, it's LeBron. Let's do it right now, right at the
All right, leave it to Michael Shacker to pull out the divinals for a little music. Thank you, Michael. All right, Godfather, I want to play this clip for you, and maybe you can decipher it for me. This is James Harden talking about not the Clippers system, but how he is the system. This is bizarre, and then we'll take a look at how it went last night for the Clippers.
When I'm in a leash, I'm not meant just shooting the basketball every time. I mean, like I think the game, and I'm a creator on the court. You know what I mean? So if I got a voice to where I can, hey, coach, I see this. You know, what you think about this? Then it's like, oh, okay. Like somebody that trusts me, that believes in me, that understands me, that I'm just not I'm not a system player. I am a system. You know what I mean? So somebody that can have that dialogue with me and understand and move forward and figure out and make adjustments on the fly throughout the course of games, that's all I really care about. You know what I mean? It's not about me scoring the basketball, scoring 30, 34 points. I've done it already. So that's what I meant by that.
All right. Not only is he crazy, but he was hitting the table with his thumbs while he was talking. So that's the noise you heard in the background. How do you receive that message there from James Harden?
Well, word salad. I mean, he's just throwing a bunch of stuff out there. There's really no system that he is other than give me the ball and let me shoot it and let me dribble it around for half the shot clock. I respect the year he had last year playing as a point guard in Philadelphia. I was impressed by that. I thought he did a nice job. I don't know how it's going to work with the Clippers, Chad. They just have too many guys who need the ball, want the ball, and gosh, look at that. Look at that thing on the screen right now. Never mind. Anyway, it's not good for the Clippers. I don't know why they went out and took him, why they got him. It doesn't make sense to me. They had enough players. You need role players around stars. You don't need one more star sometimes. 4 stars is too many.
Well, Doc Rivers recently said that last year, and you were referencing the first part of the year with the Philadelphia 76ers, where James Harden played terrific basketball and led the NBA in assists, and he was being a great facilitator for the Sixers, that, Doc Rivers thinks that when he did not make it to the All-Star game, it kind of broke him. And after that, he's basically made the decision that he was going to go back to his original style of ball, which was to, get shots up, to score points. He was frustrated that he didn't get recognized for the efforts he made last year. Well, but here's my bigger question with the Clippers. Last night in that game that they played against the Knicks, looking at the fourth quarter, in the fourth quarter, Paul George took 2 shots. He missed both. They got 1 shot from Kawhi Leonard, 1 shot from James Harden, 3 shots for Westbrook. He hit 2. And they got a couple of shots from Norman Powell. He was 2 of 2. That would not seem like proper distribution in regards to the players that you have on the floor. And I'm just wondering how you figure that out as a coach. If you're Tyronn Lue, don't you want, I would guess, you want the offense eventually getting to either George or Kawhi, and those would be your primary options, right?
Yeah. But I think, Chad, first game with Harden there. So I think they've got to establish a pecking order. And people who've played ball know what I'm talking about. Even if you're playing at noon at the YMCA, there's a pecking order on the court where you know who's going to take the shots, who's going to pass them the ball, all of that stuff. And they just haven't established that yet. And it's going to be interesting to me to see Westbrook and Harden fighting over the ball a little bit in crunch time moments, either wanting to shoot it or wanting to make the play.
Yeah, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard are the 2 best players on the floor.
Yeah, by far.
But
at this point, the other guys are getting a little bit long in the tooth.
The problem is they don't know that.
Yeah,
they're not aware that they are those guys, right? That's the issue.
Yeah.
And that's going to continue to be a problem. So we'll see how it shakes out. How would you like to be Tyronn Lue and have that job, Godfather?
Well, I'd like his paycheck, number one. I think that would be real nice. But he's got his hands full with that, Chad. It's going to be very difficult for him to figure it all out and distribute. And secretly, here's the guy probably saying, somebody needs to get hurt here pretty soon. Let's thin it down a little bit. Maybe we need to give somebody a rest day. Maybe, we got to rotate these people and have a healthy scratch like in hockey, a healthy scratch once in a while with somebody just sitting down. Because 3 players is a lot easier to manage than 4. And so I think you might see that where you get some load management taking over and helping him solve his problems.
The comments when I heard them, it reminded me of Kyrie Irving when he was talking about how they're all coaches. They don't really need
Yeah.
a coach. He's a
Oh,
coach. I'm a
gosh.
coach. I mean, that's ridiculous. You got to have structure, and there's got to be
Yeah.
a clear chain of command. And we talked about this with Chauncey. Much harder when you come in as a new coach and you've got established vets like Dame in the locker room to take control and get guys to do things the way you want. Teron Lue's in the same situation where it's going to be hard for him to get guys to buy in the way he wants them to.
Yeah, and he's dealing with all these guys are alpha males. They're all used to being the guy.
Yeah.
And this isn't going to work real well because none of them are going to be the guy.
The most pliable of that group, I think, would be Paul George.
Yeah, although we've seen, it's funny how Kawhi Leonard operates sometimes. To see he'll defer to people. He'll not be that aggressive. I've never quite known how to figure him out because sometimes, most of the time, he asserts himself, but then there's times when he doesn't. So I don't know what to expect. And somebody might surprise us by sort of just withdrawing from the whole thing.
That's possible. All right, it's going to be a disaster. And like I said, the Clippers have sucked my whole life. It is going to end badly, too. And their owner, I can't stand him. Red-faced and yelling on the sideline.
He's crazy.
Courtside. He is a crazy man.
Yeah.
With a lot of money.
Yeah.
Very crazy.
That's a dangerous thing.
Yeah, I just want him to lose. I couldn't care less about the Clippers. No one cares about the Clippers. They hardly even have a legitimate fan base.
Oh, for sure. Nobody cares in L.A. about them.
No. I mean, they're way down the pecking
You
order.
think that's going to change when they get their own very nice arena? Will they draw some different fans, some new fans?
They'll have people that will go to the game just to see the new arena.
Yeah.
But that is a Dodger town, and it's a Laker town, and a USC town.
Yeah.
There are many other teams that are far ahead of where the Clippers rank.
The Raiders. It's a good Raider town even now. When they play the Rams down there, there's more Raider fans than Ram fans.
Yeah. The Rams. The Rams have been embraced. The Chargers will never be embraced in L.A.
It's not their team.
What a mess. All right, we'll keep things rolling here on the show. What should the Blazers do with Scoot Henderson when he and Ant are both healthy? We're going to get to that. We got a lot of football coming up. We'll get to it 4:20. We got to talk about the Jets. That was a disaster last night. They got down 7-0, and you knew the game was over. The Chargers just 4-4, and it should be so much more. And they got the win last night. We'll get into the Chiefs and their defense. Brian Noe going to join us at 5:20, and we'll get the details on what happened behind the scenes with Mark Davis and Josh McDaniels. We'll talk to your boy Q from Vegas at 5 o'clock. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. If you're on hold, stay there. We'll get to your phone calls.
We are Fox Sports.
And here's what you need to know.
From the Goldberg Jones Sports Desk, your 620 Rip City Radio headlines. Goldberg Jones. Call 1-800-DIVORCE.
All right, 4 o'clock chat here. The latest college football rankings will drop here in a few minutes on ESPN. Not much expected to change with the top 6, but this Saturday we could get some clarity. Oregon will host USC. Utah plays at Washington. Georgia meets Ole Miss. Florida State will host Miami, and Michigan travels to Penn State for a big one in the Big Ten. From the NFL, Matt Vrabel announced that Will Levis will start at quarterback the rest of the way. And the Rams have signed Carson Wentz to back up Matthew Stafford. The Trailblazers get one more night off. They're in Sacramento tomorrow. Tip-off at 7 against the Kings. I will have Blazers game day starting at 4:30 right here on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday today. We got a pair of tickets for the Cavs and Blazers. We'll give those away coming up just after 5. Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad continues. Don't forget Brian Noe, Fox Sports Radio, coming up at 5:20.
The home of the OSAA is 620 Rip City Radio.
All right, I have to make a small correction. I typed in Matt Vrabel, but I think his name is Mike Vrabel. My apologies, Coach.
I heard that.
Mike Vrabel, head coach of the Titans, going with your boy Will Levis. So you get a chance to see more of him and that big arm.
A lot of people saying Vrabel's going to be the next coach of the New England Patriots.
It's possible.
Yeah.
He's the one disciple from Belichick that has actually done a heck of a job.
That's because he's gone off on his own and done it his own way. It's not the Patriot way. It's his way, I think.
Yes. It reminds me a lot of, Mark Helfrich when he took over Oregon. I like Mark a lot.
Yeah.
Good dude. The problem
Yes.
is that when he took over, he was taking over for a legend in Chip Kelly. And so I think there was pressure on him, or he felt pressure to continue on in the pathway of Chip. The problem is, as a head coach, when it's your program and you're the one that's the pressure point, you got to do it your way.
Yes.
Even if that means you've got to say goodbye to some of the things you did in the past, even from a beloved coach like Chip Kelly, do it your way.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not that guy, right? And Vrabel knows that. He's not Belichick.
Yeah.
Josh McDaniels is an idiot. And the problem is that if you don't have the cachet and the resume that a guy like Bill Belichick has, you can't be an a-hole and treat people that way. You just can't.
I don't think there's any doubt. And those guys all learned that from Belichick.
Yeah.
Who didn't do it when he started. He did it after winning a few Super Bowls. Confidential message to all his disciples. Win a few Super Bowls, then you can treat people like dogs if you want. But you're not going to win in those Super Bowls anyway.
All right, we'll keep you up to date. They just started the college football playoff rankings show. So they're going to reveal it. We'll keep you up to date as we continue, and we're going to react to it coming up at 4:45. All right, here's a big question I have. We'll get to football coming up in 10 minutes. But a question I have with the Trailblazers is very simple, Godfather. And this is a debate, and I was having a discussion with a few different people on Sunday night at the Trailblazer game. Anthony Simons is out right now, 4 to 6 weeks, had the thumb surgery. He's going to make his return. He makes $25 million, and he's their best player. You know he's going to start.
Mm-hmm.
Shaden Sharp has been inserted into the starting lineup and has excelled. And he's clearly showing that he's making growth and has a potential to be a star.
Yes.
So I would guess they're not going to take him out of the starting lineup. That decision by Coach Billis was the right one, and it turns out you look at it now, it's like, I'm so glad he did that.
Correct. Yeah.
Well, you got Scoot Henderson. He got off to a slow start, first 3 games, looked a little bit better in the previous 2. Then he had the ankle injury. He'll be back maybe tomorrow. And then Anthony's going to come back. So the question is, do you start Scoot, Ant, and Shaden with Shaden at the 3 instead of Thibault or Kamara? Or do you bring Scoot off the bench and roll out Ant, Shaden, and Thibault or Kamara at the small forward spot?
Chad, if it's my team, Scoot's not coming off the bench. He's starting. You start all the young players. You start Simons, Sharp, Scoot. Easy. Because they all have to get that game experience. They have to play against the best players you can put them against, because having Scoot play against somebody's second-string point guard is not going to help him as much as playing against the best point guards. You've got to develop those guys. That's the number one task this season. That's job one. Get those guys up to speed. All three of them, really. But Scoot especially, he's going to take longer because he's a point guard. It's a tougher spot. It's like playing quarterback in the NFL. It's a very difficult position to play.
All right, let me play devil's advocate for a moment. What about the idea that Scoot Henderson just isn't ready to be a starter yet in the NBA based on what we've seen so far?
Yeah, my point to that is, so what? He's going to start because he's going to have to get ready, even if it takes all season to get him ready, because you're not going anywhere this year. There's not going to be any parade downtown for a championship. There's not going to be any playoffs. It's a lottery team, whether he starts or doesn't start. So my opinion is, no, he starts, he plays, you get him as much minutes as you can and sit back and watch him improve. You certainly can't pull a plug on him now after just a few games in the starting role. That's not fair. He's 19 years old.
What about the idea that you got to make the guys earn it? Meaning, you go through practice, you have these games, you've got other players on the roster. Everyone knows who should be starting and who shouldn't be. Can you risk losing your locker room if you're Coach Billups by playing a guy just because he's the number 3 overall pick if his play does not warrant him taking up minutes in the starting lineup?
Well, first of all, the only guys you might lose are veteran guys who are probably going to be gone at some point anyway. The young guys know what the score is, and everybody knows who was taken number 3 in the draft. And a player who a lot of people said in a normal year, he might have gone number 1. So we know what his potential is, what his promise is. So I think everyone sit back and be patient with him, let him develop. It's going to take a while. Nobody said he was going to walk out there in his first game and be Magic Johnson. It's just not going to happen.
What about the idea that you would be putting Shaedon Sharpe at a disadvantage playing the 3 instead of his natural position of 2?
Well, that's a good question, Chad, but I think it's such a positionless game now that playing him, getting him out there, he'll be the same player playing 2 as he would playing 3 or playing 1 or whatever. Yeah. Now it's just a matter of him being on the floor and doing his thing. Make sure he gets the ball. He's got to get his touches. Is he going to hurt you a little bit defensively? Maybe. But they got a whole bunch of guys who are going to hurt you defensively, probably, when it gets down to it. Robert Williams is gone. They're going to probably deal away a couple other guys. They're not going to defend as well. For instance, if they trade Thibault, that's going to take a chunk of their defense away too. So you just don't worry about that. You have to get these guys up to speed. That's the thing. They're the future here. The other guys are not.
I agree with you on this. I really do.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate you playing devil's advocate because I know you're on the same side I'm on this.
Yeah, I look at this very simply where I went back and looked at the last 10 years of the number 3 overall pick in the draft. Basically, they're all starters.
Okay.
Yeah, they're starting right out of the gate.
Right.
But I don't care about what any other team did. I'm just looking at Scoot. You're right. This team's not going anywhere this year. And the only argument you could have, really what you're looking at is, so you're telling me you don't want to play Scoot, Ant, and Shaedon together, but you're willing to go with Ant, Shaedon, and Kamara? Or Ant, Shaedon, and Thibault? That doesn't make sense to me because the future of this team is Scoot and Shaedon playing, developing, and getting up to speed as quickly as possible.
Right.
That's the future of the Portland Trailblazers. Player development is priority number 1 right now. I don't just believe that. I think they also believe that. I think that's part of the reason why Chauncey Billups made the bold move to say, when the injury to Ant happened, he said, we are going to go with Shaedon. He needs to play. He needs to develop. We're going to go with our young guys.
Yeah.
And I think he's committed to that because he understands the importance. The truth is that Thibault, he's a good player, defensive player. He's a good teammate. I like his attitude, but he's not the future of the team. He's a role player.
Right.
And he's probably going to be gone soon anyways. Malcolm Brogdon is a great pro, but he's
Yeah.
used to coming off the bench as a sixth man, and
Mhm.
he's not going to be here long term.
Right.
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah. And
The best way to learn is to play.
yeah, for sure. And I think down the road, Chad, there probably will be a decision made among those three guards, Simons, Sharp, and Scoot. They'll probably at some point decide one of them has to go, but we're not at that time yet. We need to know how these guys are all going to shake out.
Yeah.
We don't know really yet what Sharp is going to be. Is he going to be a superstar or an all-star, a star, or just a real good player?
Yeah.
Or maybe an average player? We still don't know that. We don't know what Scoot's going to be. We don't know what Simons is going to be, really, because he hasn't had, even though he's been in the league a while, he hasn't had a lot of time being the featured player,
Yeah.
which he's going to be when he comes back.
What you want is for Scoot and Shaden to develop so rapidly and be so good that the team has to make a tough decision about Ant.
Absolutely. Great point.
Right? That's
Yeah.
where you want him to be. Let's
Yeah.
go out to Newburgh. Dylan has got a couple of thoughts on the Trailblazers. Dylan, welcome to the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. What's on your mind?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Fabulous.
Oh, good. No, yeah, just wanted to get your opinions about the team. You know, I don't know what your thoughts are about them winning games. I honestly don't think they're going to win even 20 games this season, in my opinion. So I would think that the fewer games they lose this year, you know, they could get another lottery pick, hopefully. That would be cool.
Yeah, I would agree with that. They're definitely going to go back to the lottery. I had them pegged between 25 and 30. And I would say this about these 3 straight wins. I know people get excited, and it's nice to see the guys compete and win games. But based on their offensive numbers, going to that game on Sunday, they were next to last in offensive efficiency, dead last in three-point shooting. They just happened to catch 3 teams in Toronto and Memphis and Detroit who are not good. And their inability to score in combination with the Blazers' defense allowed the Blazers to get 3 wins. But I know that type of success will not continue based on the offensive output and the lack of shooting.
Yeah, don't let that spoil you. Don't let that deceive you on what's really going on, because I love it that they got to win to show them they're on the right track. I think you need to be rewarded for doing things the right way.
Yes, because then the coach can go back to him and say, look, when you defend and you play with energy and you hustle, these things can happen.
Right. And I think still there's not going to be a lot of wins there for them. They're going to have to take their enjoyment from improvement and from the occasional win, because there's always wins for you. Are they going to win 20 games? Yeah, they're going to win 20 games because there's schedule wins out there. Somebody comes in here tired. Somebody comes in here in a slump. Somebody comes in here all banged up. You're going to win games. The league allows you to win games. So I think they'll probably win at least 25. I think they'll do that. And that's going to get them a nice lottery ball, most likely. And that's probably what they need, Chad.
It is. They need more talent. Right now it's about player development and acquisition of assets and or young talent. That's what it's all about. And I would also caution you on 2 things. One, just remember, this is not about winning and losing games this year. It's about developing the players. Also, I wouldn't grow too attached to some of these vets that we like Malcolm Brogdon or Thibault or Robert Williams, who's now injured, because these guys they're just not going to be here long term.
Right.
You just got to know that now so you don't get shocked when they're moved out, because Cronin's in a good spot. He's under no pressure to rush and make a move, but when the best offer comes, he can continue to collect those assets.
Yeah, and I see Malcolm Brogdon as a guy who, at some point, maybe real close to the trade deadline, somebody's going to really need a 6th man, and you're going to be able to hold him for ransom.
I see a lot of value in his game.
Yeah, you can auction him off.
You know what I respect about him? He's not pouting or complaining about being here in Portland after being on a legit title contender in Boston.
Yeah.
He's embraced the role, has a good perspective, and he's helping these younger guys out on the team. What a pro.
He's been great for him.
All right, the top 6 is being revealed right now. Oregon is still at 6 and Washington at number 5. So as we told you, this is not the week where you would expect major change. I would expect the top 4 to be the same. We'll give that to you when we come back, and then we're going to get into the football. Justin Herbert, the Jets, we'll get some audio to you. Robert Saleh had a very weird compliment for Zach Wilson. And then we'll talk about the Chiefs winning with defense, which is kind of cool. You got the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. iHeartRadio celebrates National All right, Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. The top 6 remain the same. Ohio State, Georgia, Michigan, and Florida State, with Washington and Oregon as the first 2 teams out.
Yep.
So the big discussion right now between the people on the television with Kirk Herbstreit and the crew is what the committee will do in the scenario where Texas, who right now is still ahead of Alabama in the rankings, and if Alabama and Texas are both to win out, that could be a scenario based on strength of schedule where Oregon could get left out.
Yeah, that's what's hurt a lot of schools in the past is the SEC always has a lot of teams ranked. So when they beat each other, they get a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, and look at it right now. Strength of schedule for Oregon right now is 63rd in the country. Texas is 10th, and Alabama's inside the top 10.
Yeah.
And if Texas, who beat Alabama on the road, if they win out and they win the Big 12 and they're sitting there with 1 loss, and Alabama wins out and is sitting there with 1 loss and an SEC championship, how can you say that Alabama's in and Texas, who beat Alabama on the road and won their conference, is not in? They won't do it. They won't do it. Not to Texas, they won't. It's going to get interesting to see how this all plays out. The best thing you can do if you're Oregon is just keep winning and win big. Win big and win convincingly.
Yeah, and you need Texas to take a loss somewhere along the way.
Oh, my goodness.
Which they probably won't.
Probably not. They're looking like they're probably going to play Oklahoma State in the Big 12 title game. But, again, a lot can change between now and then. You know, a lot of these teams are going to take losses. We'll see how it all shakes out. All right, let's talk a little football from what we saw last night, Godfather. In fact,
you're going to make me talk about what I had to sit through last night?
You're the one that wanted to talk about it, so we're going to talk about it,
Okay.
all right?
Yes, sir.
Well, I guess we'll start with this with Robert Saleh. You could see it on his face last night, and I don't know how you felt, but I look at the Jets, similar to how I look at the 49ers with their quarterback in Brock Purdy. They need everything to go right, meaning if you have a special teams gaffe or you turn the football over, you're working with an offense that's limited, and it's hard to overcome those type of obstacles. They've got to have all 3 phases working in their favor to put their quarterback in a position to go out and succeed, and he was unable to do that last night. 3 turnovers for the Jets. They gave up a special teams touchdown out of the gate, and the Chargers cruised to victory on a night when their offense didn't look particularly well, but they didn't have to be. They just took care of the ball and got the job done.
They played it real cozy in the second half, knowing that unless they gave a touchdown to the Jets, they had no problems winning that game because the Jets were not going to get a touchdown against them off the long field.
Take a listen to the Jets head coach, Robert Saleh, and when this little Q&A about Zach Wilson.
Is this a step back for Zach, Robert?
I don't know if you could say step back. You know, there's, like I said, it's all encompassing. You know, obviously he's going to want some things that he wishes he could have done better. It's just a little bit of everything. It's just one of those bizarre games that just every time we had momentum. Like I said, just a self-inflicted wound. Was it his best game? Obviously not. Was it his worst game? No, I'm not going to say it was even close to his worst game. But I think the entire offense, obviously, we all could have been better.
Boy, if that wasn't his worst game last night, I'd like to know what his worst really is.
Well, he's had a lot of bad ones. That's the way it sounded anyway.
That's just brutal. It's brutal as a coach when you have no confidence in your offense or your quarterback to go out and get the job done.
Yeah.
Here's my theory on Zach Wilson. Do I think he's a great quarterback? No. But I think what's happened, at least through my eyes, is that they've worked so hard to get the message through to him that don't make a mistake, don't make a mistake, don't make a mistake, that as a young quarterback, when he's out there on the field, I think the only thing in his mind is don't make a mistake. And the problem is when you handcuff someone like that, I think you prevent the ability for them to go out and use some of their creativity as an athlete and be willing to take a couple of chances that could turn into big plays. And I think that hurts the quarterback. Plus, I'm not a big believer in Nathaniel Hackett, right, in terms of being an offensive genius.
That's what I was going to say, Chad. I was going to go to your favorite coach, Nat, I can't hack it, and just tell you, their schemes, I mean, I don't know what they're trying to do. It's really hard to figure out where they're attacking, the way they want to play. They seem confused a lot on do we want to run or pass or we want to throw. I mean, I can't tell you what and they're handicapped bad offensive line too, right?
Yeah, and it's not all on Wilson. That offensive line is very poor.
Yeah.
So I know it's tough, but sometimes it helps to encourage someone's like, say, hey, we want you to be safe, but we believe in you.
Yeah.
You got to tell them that.
Yeah.
They have no other option. You've got to turn them loose a little bit.
Trust him.
Because when you play, when you play scared on offense, you're just not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
And in the league, we know this. You got to be able to put some points up on the board, but it is painful to watch. I mean, why can't these television networks get the Jets out of national TV? Newsflash: Aaron Rodgers isn't with the club anymore.
Yeah, that's why they're scheduled for all these night games. But they're supposed to be able to flex them out of those games, right? They didn't do that. I don't want to see that team play without Aaron Rodgers.
It's bad.
I'm not sure I even want to see him with Aaron Rodgers at this point.
Well, Aaron Rodgers is making progress, and I think his desires to overcome the challenges and make it back this year, that may not be the best idea, right?
No, he didn't want any part of this. He'll just get hurt again.
Behind that offensive line, why would you risk it?
No, they can't protect him. It would be crazy to come back.
Yeah, just keep working.
Yeah.
Be diligent in your rehab the way you are, Aaron, and then wait until next year when they can go out and get a left tackle and beef up the offensive line a little bit. But why would you want to put yourself in a situation where you're going to be on the run, coming off an injury like that with the Achilles? That crazy. He doesn't need to do that. It's not worth it. Plus, if Zach Wilson somehow manages to get them into the playoffs as a wild card, just let him go out there and manage that game.
How secure is Nathaniel Hackett, seeing as how he was only hired because they thought it would help him?
His security is tied to Aaron Rodgers.
Exactly.
So as long as Aaron's there, he's got a job. And he's one of these classic cases of a coach who gets opportunities because of his work with one quarterback. Mm-hmm. Adam Gase got a head coaching job in Miami because he had the fortune of coaching Peyton Manning. These quarterbacks, it's amazing how many guys they get paid. Coordinators, head coaches, wide receivers. You play with the right quarterback, and they can do wonders for everybody.
Yeah.
Because they cover up the imperfections of what may be going on because the quarterback play is so elite, right?
Yeah.
I think Andy Reid's a good coach, but Patrick Mahomes is so darn good, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It's rough. The Jets are a brutal watch. And for the Chargers, there's just something amiss there. Like they lead the league in turnover ratio. They're +9, which is terrific. But if you're +9 in turnovers and you've got an elite quarterback and your defense, you've got multiple guys who can rush the passer, you should be better than 4-4.
Well, the turnover thing is supposed to be like the number one indicator
of success.
Of how good you're going to be.
Yes, because you're turning it over, and the Chargers don't make mistakes. They don't turn it over. And Herbert's terrific with the football. It's just they're just not clicking on all cylinders. And it makes no sense to me because Justin Herbert can do anything you want him to do on a football field. Anything. He's mobile. He's tough. He plays through injury. He's got the strong arm. He understands defenses. He's razor sharp in the mind. He can do everything. So they're painful to watch. The game that's going to be interesting now for the Chargers, they head back home after playing the Jets physical team, and now they're going to host the Detroit Lions. That's coming up on Sunday. That's a darn good football game.
Yeah.
And I want to see how the Lions approach that team. I want to see how the Chargers respond because the Lions are physical, and they've got a mentality, they've got a philosophy, and they play the way their coach wants them to play. That's going to be a good football game.
Well, they're coming after Herbert. That's what people are doing. And, boy, he's taken a lot of hits this year. He's already playing with a broken finger. You can tell he's a little gimpy, too. He's not getting up as quickly as he did earlier in the season. He's a little bit sore. He's worn out. And now these guys are coming to town that I'm afraid they're going to put a hurt on him.
One other thought on the Jets, and this could be unfortunate for Zach Wilson. They have to go to the Raiders on Sunday. I can't imagine what Max Crosby is thinking about right now, looking at that offensive line and looking at that quarterback. Yeah. Max Crosby is going to have a field day, multiple sacks coming his way in that game.
Yeah.
He's going to kill him. Max Crosby is one of the greatest players I've seen in the league today. I love his motor. I love his intensity. He never stops on a play. He is just a handful to deal with game in and game out. And on a franchise that has been struggling, it's nice to see a guy like Crosby who he blocks everything else out. And when he's between the white lines, he is just full go all the time. That guy's an animal. Love his game.
He's a quarterback hunter.
He is.
He really is.
Yes.
He's good at it.
He's really good at it. So good luck, Zach. You're going to need it. against the Raiders coming up on Sunday. But you're right. They're unwatchable. That offense is unwatchable.
Oh, it's terrible.
It's painful. It's painful. But this is the problem with poor quarterback play. One, it's bad as a television product. But two, it's just hard to win games in the NFL when you need everything else to go your way. So you don't screw up in special teams. Don't have the turnover. And they think about last night, 3 turnovers. They were -3 in the turnover department, and they give up a special teams touchdown. You can't overcome that with Zach Wilson. It's not happening.
No.
I got a question about the Kansas City Chiefs. They got the win over the Dolphins, 21-14 in Frankfurt. They are a top 5 defense right now in the NFL. And the only criticism that people can really lob at them right now is that the offense is not what we're accustomed to with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
The wide receiver core is basically the same that they had last year, except minus Juju Smith-Schuster. So they got youth at wide receiver. They still have Travis Kelce. They still got Patrick Mahomes, and they're multidimensional in terms of how they can attack you. For me, I've watched enough of these football games over the years to know that defense is critical, especially when you're traveling on the road and especially when you come into the playoffs and if you have to go on the road in the playoffs. I love their defense. I would make the case that Kansas City today more dangerous than what we've seen in the past because now Patrick Mahomes is in a great spot where he can change his approach. He doesn't have to have the throttle on the offense at all times. He can live to play another series, another down, knowing that if we got to punt the football, my defense will get the ball back to me, and then that will allow us to go out there and continue to do what we do. And I think the defense in that conference with all the great quarterbacks in the AFC, that defense is something they can lean on. And they haven't been able to say that over the last, multiple seasons under Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I think for this team, Chad, the defense has become so important because, frankly, they don't have to worry about the offense as much as other teams do because their quarterback can always bail them out.
Yeah.
He'll make some kind of crazy play to win him a game somewhere along the line in the playoffs like he does every year. And so much more important to keep the score down for him with your good defense. And I think it matters a lot that that they're playing this way now because as Mahomes ages, he's not going to be the same. A little bit's going to be lost all the time. So not having to ask as much of him as you did a few years ago, that's probably a good thing in the long run. The only thing I would add is I think they could use a big back. I really do. I think sometimes in those games where you have to play a little more conservatively, it's nice to be able to hand off to that big guy to get you some short yardage.
Yeah, and Pacheco's a nice player, but he's undersized.
Yeah, their running backs all are, I think.
And I'm always worried. The Broncos have a small back, Jaleel McLaughlin, and he's great to watch because he's fast. But every time he gets hit, he flies around. I'm always worried he's going to fumble the football.
Yeah.
I like guys that when they hit the pile, it always goes in the direction that they're moving, right? It's nice to have that type of strength, but I just think the defense, because you look at the AFC, these are the teams that they're going to face in the postseason. Baltimore, Jacksonville, and Cincinnati. And I watch Cincinnati right now, and I'm so blown away with the quick turnaround they had now that Burrow's healthy.
Oh, man.
They make good decisions. They understand who they are. Joe Burrow is as good as it gets. He and Mahomes are the best. Accurate, smart, gets rid of the football quickly, and you cannot fool him. His mind is razor sharp at the line of scrimmage. He's going to get them in the right place. He's going to make the right decision. They have good balance, and they've also got a good defense. So the Chiefs are going to need that defense to lean on because it's quarterback play. Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville, they look sensational, and they're going to have a really good record at the end of the year. Baltimore looks like one of the, if not the best team in the NFL right now with their defense, their balance, and the way Lamar's playing.
Yeah.
So for the Chiefs to finally have a defense they can lean on, I guess people don't see the Chiefs the same way because they're just used to the fireworks that Mahomes is putting up.
I've really been surprised by Burrow in the last couple of games. It's almost as if for some reason, maybe it's because he's finally healthy, he's energized right now.
Yeah.
He's really something. He's running around the field like crazy.
He's a stud. That guy is a stud. He's a man's man and great leader of that football team. He looks great. I think, too, that the two teams I like the most, Philadelphia in the NFC, Kansas City in the AFC, what's scary about those two teams, they're sitting there with the best marks, the best records, and they're not even close to playing their best football.
Yeah, both of them.
A mark of a good team is winning games when you don't have your best stuff. No matter what sport you're talking about, right? How do you win games when you don't have your best offense? Or in the NBA your best shooting. When guys are missing threes, how do you find ways to win? You got to be able to manufacture points. You got to come up with different ways to do it. And the Chiefs are proving to be a lot more resourceful this year in terms of how they win games.
You know, Chad, sometimes those really good teams that are accustomed to playing for championships, they just kind of bide their time.
Yeah.
They're just passing the time till the real games start. And
Yeah.
for them, the real games are the playoffs. And they're playing just well enough to secure their spot. Both of them are. Yeah, they're going to be hosting those playoff games.
Yep.
But they're not overly anxious about the way they're playing. They're just playing.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I was going to ask you a question. I don't know if you saw this, but this blew me away. Arthur Smith, who's the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah.
I had no idea, but his father is the founder of FedEx, Frederick Smith.
Oh, God.
His net worth, $5.9 billion.
Oh, no.
$5.9 billion. And
What's
then
that guy doing coaching football?
Look, being a head coach in the NFL is great because you're one of 30 who gets to do that. And that comes with a lot of prestige. But that's a lot of work, being an NFL head coach. A lot of pressure, a lot of work, a lot of sleepless nights. It's like, dude, your pops is $5.9 billion.
And don't you think your dad is sitting there in that office saying, God, I wish that kid would give up the football goofiness and come back and help me run this company.
Or it was one of those strained relationships where he's like, you're not getting a penny from me. I'll show you. And now he went out and made a name for himself.
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe so.
$5.9 billion. Why couldn't you have come up with a genius plan like that?
Because we're stupid.
Yeah, like Amazon,
Yeah.
FedEx.
I know.
Some of these companies and the ideas I look at, I'm like, gosh, there's so many people on this planet that are a lot smarter than I am.
Yeah. I mean, I like to eat a little bit. Why didn't I think of Chick-fil-A? That probably would have been a pretty good idea.
I would have thought the godbrother, your brother, Bruce, would have come up with the ultimate fast food restaurant idea. He's an idea guy. I respect idea guys because I'm not that guy.
Yeah, but here's a guy who's made $1 million off just scrounging around, I mean, he's a millionaire, my brother. I don't know. I can't explain it. He values money a lot more than I do. I'm a spendthrift. I have no judgment about money.
But the reason why I respect godbrother, he's got money, but you wouldn't know it.
Yeah.
He drives
That's for sure.
His car's a jalopy, and his gear is like hand-me-downs. I love that. No flash money. He ain't flashing nothing.
No. He fools you.
Yeah. Let's go out to the phones. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. And Shacker's still yelling at me. I think he's still a little hot with me.
Yeah,
That's
I don't
okay.
know what he's doing. He's running his own show back in the back room there.
He's got a billion things going on right now. It's okay. We're going to give away a pair of Trailblazer tickets coming up just after 5 o'clock. We're going to talk with your boy Q from Vegas. We'll get the insight on the Raiders and the demise of Hurricane Josh McDaniels. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. We'll come back and react to the release of the college football playoff rankings. The top 6 remains the same as we get ready for a big weekend. All right, your top 6 in college football with the latest batch of college football rankings. Ohio State remains at number 1, followed by Georgia, Michigan, Florida State. And the first 2 teams out are Washington and Oregon. And Texas is sitting there at number 7. All right, I want to ask you a question, Godfather. Take all your thoughts about the committee out of it for just a moment. But of the top teams, who do you think is the best team? Not based on resume, but teams you've seen. Who do you think is the best team in the country?
Gosh, that's a good question, Chad.
And the reason why I'm asking the question is that, Kirk Herbstreit was asked a question about Ohio State. And he said, look, I know that a lot of you like metrics and you want to look at this number, that number, whatever. He goes, I watch the games. And he goes, I go off of what I'm seeing. And he goes, I understand Ohio State's number 1 right now based on resume, but based on what I've seen on the football field, Georgia and Michigan are better.
Oh. Yeah, I like Georgia probably. If you pin me down to one team, I would say Georgia.
Yeah.
And part of that, I'm sure, is my bias based on them winning previously.
Yeah.
You see them, and, Georgia's Georgia, and they're on a heck of a run. My guess is, my intuition is they're probably the best team.
See, right now, if I were ranking, let's say, the top 4 based on what I've seen and just not giving a hoot about resume, and I really trust what my eyes tell me more than I do resume, right?
Sure.
So, number 1 right now, I'd go Michigan because of what I've seen, they've been the most dominant football team. They haven't played anyone, but they've destroyed everyone they've played. After that, I would put Georgia at number 2. Impressed with their play. They're not as dynamic as they have been the last couple of years, but they are tough, they are physical, and they know how to win football games. So I'm impressed. And I like their coach as well. So I put Georgia at number 2. After that, at number 3, I would place Oregon in the third hole right now. I put him in over Washington. I put him in over Ohio State because based on what I've seen with the way they play at the line of scrimmage and their balance on offense and the way they get after defensively, I would put them at number 3.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
And then after that, I would go Washington at number 4. Now, they haven't looked as great the last few weeks, but they beat Oregon, and they got one of the best quarterbacks in the country. They're dynamic on the outside. They're difficult to defend, and that's where I would go 1 through 4. And then I would slot everyone else behind them, Florida State at number 5. I respect Florida State, but they haven't really played anyone outside of LSU in the opener, and they're benefiting from a schedule that's probably going to allow them to go unscathed throughout the year.
Chad, I've seen Florida State now for parts of 3 games. A couple of those games, most of the game. I wasn't that impressed. I just don't see them as being in a class of those other powerful teams. I don't think they could beat Oregon on any kind of neutral field. I'm not even sure they could beat Oregon at home. I think Oregon, Washington, and certainly Georgia, Michigan are better than those guys.
Who was it that told me this today? Oh, I was talking with the Ginger, Justin Myers, earlier today. We were having a little phone chat. Usually I like to call him once a week just to see what's going on in his mind. Scary.
Boy. Dangerous.
But he said, I think it was FanDuel or one of the accounts. I think it was FanDuel. They've got Oregon as a 6.5-point favorite right now over Washington on a neutral field.
Wow.
That's bigger than I thought. I think we were discussing maybe a 3-point spread, but 6.5? Woo! That's a big number. Would you feel comfortable in the Pac-12 title game laying 6.5 with the Ducks?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
I would. Yeah, I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want to have to give that many points.
No.
But, yeah, if you made me bet, yeah, that's the way I'm going.
Now, the one thing Herbie was talking about and the crew was talking about in ESPN that is going to be something to watch as this continues to play out, it's Texas. They've got the win over Alabama on the road. They beat them in Tuscaloosa.
Right, real early in the year.
Yes. Alabama has a chance to go unbeaten the rest of the way and wind up in the SEC title game. If they end up beating Georgia and winning the SEC championship, Texas, their only loss coming on a neutral field to Oklahoma, and they've got the win over Alabama, and they're Big 12 champs. If right now they still have Texas ranked ahead of Alabama, number 7, and at number 7, and then Bama's at number 8. It would be hard for the committee with Texas beating Alabama to have them ahead of Alabama ahead of Texas in the final rankings.
Mm-hmm.
and you got to put the SEC champ in, don't you? With one loss, and
I'm
they beat Georgia.
afraid So
Yeah. So what's the committee going to do under those circumstances? Is Texas in a position, if they win out and win the Big 12 with the win over Alabama, to secure their spot in the playoff?
Hate to say it, but Texas is Texas.
They also showed the strength of schedule. The problem with the Ducks right now that's hindering them is that strength of schedule. They're 63rd in the country right now. Both Texas and Alabama right now, top 10.
Well, Oregon's will get a little better, based on
Yeah, they got USC coming up.
USC and Oregon State.
Oregon State, and then they'll play, obviously, Washington
Conference
again in
title
the
game.
conference title game. I don't know. All I've said all along is I don't trust the committee because they're inconsistent in how they apply the metrics.
Well, it's like I say, the strength of schedule is skewed by the fact that the SEC always has a lot of ranked teams. They play each other, but they get points for winning those games and even losing those games because they're playing top 20 or top 10 teams. And for most of the last 15 years, the Pac-12 hasn't had that. They do this year. They have had that this year. So I think you just got to hope that somebody there on that committee is saying, hey, the Pac-12 was the toughest conference in the country this year, which I think a lot of people believe.
Pac-12's been really good this year.
Yeah.
And that might prove to be vital when it gets down to final ranking time. Yeah, I don't know how the committee's going to handle that.
You could even take their pity. Hey, come on, guys. That conference is going away. Give them a going away present,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, can we lob them a bone? Hey, why
Yeah.
don't we just put Oregon State in? It's their final. Let's just give them a little crumb,
Right.
Heck, how about Jonathan Smith? Well, he's got Oregon State at number 12 in the college football playoff rankings. That's pretty amazing.
It is.
I know it's not satisfying to a Beaver fan because you lose to Washington State and Arizona, but he's got him in freaking 12. What he's done at that program is ridiculous. I told you my Pac-12 wish or dream is for Oregon State to win out, getting into the Civil War, beat Washington. I want that game to have everything riding on it. Winner gets to the Pac-12 title game. That would be spectacular.
Yeah.
Come on, Oregon State. Just find a way to score more than 30, and then you'll put yourself in a position to maybe upset Washington. Maybe.
They better get 30 or they're not going to beat them.
Oh, my goodness. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know how the committee's going to handle that with Texas and Alabama. And we'll see how things shake out. Can Alabama win out? Can they beat Georgia? I just don't put anything past Nick Saban. He's so good.
Yeah.
And the way he's gotten that young quarterback to play better week by week by week, he's a darn good coach. All right, Ducks going to take on USC. 15-point favorites at home against Dotson. Might want to run up the score. But don't leave any doubt. Just blow everyone out and run it up with purpose. Run it up with purpose. All right, we'll keep things rolling. When we come back, your boy Q from Las Vegas is going to join us, and we'll get the inside scoop on what led to the Josh McDaniels firing. All right, it's now 5 o'clock. Chad here. The latest batch of college football rankings are out. The top 6 remains unchanged, with Oregon and Washington being the first 2 teams out. Washington at 5, Oregon at 6. A couple of notes from the NFL. Mike Vrabel announced Will Levis will start the rest of the way at quarterback for the Titans. The Rams have signed Carson Wentz. Your Portland Trailblazers get another night off. They're in Sacramento to meet the Kings tomorrow. And that tip-off is at 7. I'll have game day starting at 4:30. It's Trailblazers Ticket Tuesday. We got a pair for the Cavs and Blazers coming up here in a few minutes on the Rip City Drive. Your place to win tickets to every Trailblazer game Tuesdays on the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. When we come back, we're going to talk a little football. We'll focus in on the Raiders with your boy Q. All right, Rip City Drive, big day. We are now streaming live on YouTube. So just go to our homepage, youtube.com, Rip City Radio 620, and you'll find the page. Click to subscribe, and you can find the live link there for the shows. Rip City Mornings, Rip City Drive, Blazers Game Day, 5th quarter, and Courtside Mondays.
You'll also find some pictures of our dogs.
That's right. We got them up there.
Yeah.
I figure puppy shots and the rest of our animals deserve some love, so it's a good thing.
Yeah, Jack's up there, too. And Shacker's dog's up there, too.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right, Blazers and Cavs tickets coming up here in just a couple of minutes. We're going to play Name That Movie, but very happy to go to the phones. I've had the pleasure of being on this guy's show. He is with the Las Vegas Sports Network, 9:20 a.m., also ESPN Las Vegas. You hear him on ESPN Radio Game Night from 7 until 10. He's Fox Sports Las Vegas, 12:30 the game. This guy's everywhere, and he's on Twitter at yourboyQ254. Hey, Q, it's great to have you on the show, man. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, man, no problem. Anytime I get an opportunity to be on your show, that's awesome, man. You've been on my show multiple times, so I'm excited about the opportunity.
No, it's so great. I love it. Well, we have a bunch of Raider fans up here in this pocket of the Northwest, Q. So why don't we start with this? What were the key events that led to the dismissal of Josh McDaniels?
Well, I think it was so many collective things that went into it as far as bad, embarrassing losses, the mood of the team, the mood of the fan base. I had never seen, look, full disclosure, I've been a Raider fan my whole life. But covering a team professionally, you got to take a different approach to it. I had never seen a fan base that was so against the coach and so angry about the coach being the head coach of the team, and he doesn't know the Raider way, and Patriot this and Patriot that. And just there was a big dark cloud over this team. And, when you look at what they did last year, only winning 6 games, you say, okay, it's the first year, new head coach, new system, trying to do things his way. Okay, maybe that's okay. They'll build on that. But then when you saw this season and the way they regressed, and the fact that, Chad, they weren't scoring 20 points a game offensively, and they've got Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers, Josh Jacobs, Hunter Renfrow, right? They've got all these weapons, and they couldn't score 20 points in an NFL game in 2023. That just didn't make any sense. And so when Mark Davis finally got an opportunity to talk with some of the players about what was going on in the locker room, and the feedback that he received was not the feedback that he wanted to hear. And so he ultimately decided this is not getting better. It's only getting worse. I've got to go ahead and pull the plug, even though it's going to cost a lot of money.
Hey, Q, I'm wondering, Antonio Pierce, does he have a legit chance, do you think, to hold on to this job?
Normally I would say no, especially like when the last time the Raiders had this situation pop up where they had an interim and Rich Versace was the guy. I said from the jump that no, because he's interim. And more times than not, we see that guy not really have the opportunity to be the man. But I do think because of what happened with Rich, and I think that Mark Davis now is looking at this situation like, you know what? Let's give this guy a shot. Let's see what he can do. And that's why I think he pulled the plug when he did, with 9 games still left to go in the season, because it gives Coach Pierce a real opportunity to see what he can do and see these players rally behind him. And I've asked multiple people, and nobody can confirm it or not, but I do think that there was something to be said about the way that Coach McDaniels was fired was on Halloween. That was the day after the Raiders lost to the Lions. The Lions have a guy there at their head coach position that's not necessarily an X's and O's coach, but he's a leader. And I think that what we've seen from the Detroit Lions and Coach Campbell shows Mark Davis that, you know what, you can have a guy that's not necessarily a genius when it comes to offensive scheme or some defensive-minded guru or whatever the case may be, but you could just get an all-around leader, and his players will rally behind him and want to run through a wall for him. And I'll tell you, when we sat there in the media room at the Intermountain Health Performance Center for the introductory press conference for both interim GM Champ Kelly and also Antonio Pierce, by the time that was over, there was not a media member in that room that wasn't ready to run to the wall as well. I mean, they fired us up. They got us excited, and it was just a big cloud. It felt like it came off the organization and it re-energized everybody, including myself.
We're talking to your boy Q here on the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. I want to ask you about the cash flow. If Mark decided to go out and hire a big-name coach like Jim Harbaugh or anyone, does he have the money to be able to do that when he's paying off two high-profile guys?
Yeah, I think he does, right? I mean, it's been a cash cow here, right? Being in Vegas, it has been an absolute cash cow. You see the success he's had with the Aces as well, the WNBA team, back-to-back champs. The organization is worth so much money now compared to what it was when it was in Oakland, and it's only going to go up, right? So the money, the price, the value is only going to continue to rise and rise and rise. So I don't think that that's a problem. I really don't, and I know that that's been one of the big sticking points for a long time, but I don't think he pulled the trigger if that was an issue. So I do think there's a chance that he can go after somebody that is a big-time name like a Harbaugh or anyone else that may be out there that is the attractive name. But I just think that he's going to really kind of have a very wide net when it comes to this situation on who he ends up ultimately hiring as the full-time coach. I don't think it's going to be one particular mold that he's looking for, like, oh, he's got to be a rock star, or he's got to be just a leader, or he's got to, you know what I mean? I think he's going to talk to a lot of different folks.
Okay, Q, answer me this now. They had the big win, Pierce's first game, and a lot of times that new coach gets that new coach bump the first time he coaches a game. We've seen it before. Saw it with Jeff Saturday last year. Is that what this was, or is this what the Raiders really are?
I think there's a little bit of both, to be honest. I fully buy into the new coach bump and just the way that the players go out and play with energy. I expected them to go win that game. I didn't know that they're going to win 30-6, but I realized that the Giants aren't a very good team. And when you lost Daniel Jones, it felt like, okay, the wind has been taken out of their sails and it's going to be a wrap. But they still have a good defense, and the Raiders had a rookie quarterback playing, and they were able to get it done. He didn't have to do a whole lot. The run game was working. I think that there was a lot to have to do with that first game bump. This week, Sunday Night Football, primetime action, that's going to be interesting because the Jets coming off a tough loss to the Chargers where they didn't play good at all. They got blown out, but really the defense wasn't the problem. That's what I want to see. Like, how does this team perform against that defense? Do they come out with that same energy, or is it kind of going back to regressing a little bit to what we've seen from the Raiders so far this season? I think we'll learn so much more about this team this upcoming week to see what Antonio Pierce is really bringing to the table. And then another side note is, if they were to lose a game, or maybe they lose two games, is that joy, is that energy, is that excitement still there around the team, or is it like, okay, here we go, back to what it was?
Hey, Q, I have so much respect for Max Crosby. I've never seen too many guys like him that has that type of motor, and I think he embodies everything that the Raiders have been about for years. I love his game. How much is he licking his chops with the Jets coming to town with Zach Wilson in that offensive line for the game on Sunday night?
Oh, man, I was thinking the same thing while I was watching the game last night. I was like, Max Crosby has got to be just, he's got to be smiling ear to ear knowing what he can do. And that dude is a motor, man. He does not stop. He still amazes me. He amazes everyone just watching the way he goes. And so, yeah, I think he's excited about the Jets coming to town and that lackluster offensive line. And honestly, I mean, the Raiders came off an 8-sack performance against the Giants. I think a lot of the Raiders are excited about the opportunity because they want to show that they can complement Max Crosby. But, yeah, he had a 3-sack performance against the Giants. I'm sure he's going to be looking to duplicate that, if not do even better.
Okay, Q, I heard a lot about Aiden O'Connell in the preseason, and then it kind of went silent there for a while. Now it seems like he's got the opportunity to show what he has. What do you think of him? What are we going to see for him?
I think that he has an opportunity, and a lot of Raider fans have been basically screaming for him to be the quarterback since Jimmy G got hurt, right? And he ended up getting the start against the Chargers. I didn't want to see him not start multiple games. I didn't want to see him just go in and get one start, then go back to the bench, then get one start, go back to the bench. I wanted to see him when he had an opportunity to do and play multiple games. Now he's got that opportunity. What I saw from him on Sunday I thought was encouraging, but again, it's not a very good Giants team. This week, Jets have this strong defense coming to town. We're going to learn a lot. But look, he's not your average rookie. He's older, right? He's 25 years old. He's got it between the ears. He's got a strong arm, something that the Raiders did not have and did not show at all this season. They weren't able to stretch the field at all. He's able to do that. Completed a nice deep ball to Trey Tucker coming off an interception play. So, I mean, he's able to do things that Jimmy G and Brian Hoyer can't do. So that's encouraging. But can he do it consistently? And can he do it against multiple teams that now have film on him, right? I like him. But we'll learn, is he going to be a really good backup in this league, or does he have the potential to be a franchise quarterback? We'll know sooner rather than later.
All right, he's on Twitter at your boy Q254 with the Las Vegas Sports Network, Raider Nation Radio, ESPN Las Vegas, also ESPN Radio Game Night. He is blowing up. Hey, Q, I respect your game, and I really appreciate the time. Thank you, and keep being you, man.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, man. I appreciate you. And like you would end the show sometimes, Rip City!
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it. There you go. Love it, man.
Thank you.
You got it. There's your boy Q. That's a good dude right there. Raider Mike's a big fan of Q, so he'll be happy we had him on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's I'm anxious to see how they play against the Jets. That's a game they could win. I want to see if it's more than just a coach bump. I have a feeling that I'm with Q on that. I think it's a little bit of both. I think this is more of who they are, and I think they're going to be able to play a little more free now with that negative impact out of the locker room.
Yeah, and I expect that to hold for the rest of the season, really,
Yeah.
because they are a better team than what they've shown. I think we're agreed on that, right?
Yeah.
They've got really good players on this team.
Yeah, there's no question. So, and Max Crosby's going to feast. I mean, Zach Wilson's done. He's a dead man.
Well, Max Crosby's going to eat your quarterback if you're not careful.
All
He's
right.
just going to eat him.
No doubt. All right, it's very simple. We got a pair of tickets for the Blazers and Cavs coming up at Moda Center. We're going to play Name That Movie. I've got a clip. All you have to do is call Shacker and name the movie, all right? Your telephone number is 503-248-0620, 503-248-0620. The name of this movie will net you a pair of tickets for the Cavs and Trailblazers.
I hope they got my comics here.
503-248-0620, 503-248-0620.
I hope they got my comics here.
It's a classic. It's a classic right there. 503-248-0620. Name this movie.
I hope they got my comics here.
All right, there you go. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. That is the movie. Call Shacker. Call Shacker right now. If you know that movie, you'll get a pair of tickets for the Blazers and Cavs. 503-248-0620. When we come back, we talk some NFL with Brian Noe of Fox Sports Radio. All right, Shacker, we got a winner for the Blazer tickets? Yes. Shacker's working through a lot of struggle back there. I like it. We got the YouTube stream up and running. Shacker's handling a lot of different things all at once. He's talking to people on the phone, handing out tickets. And now we're very happy to welcome back to the show a man. He is one of our boys. He's family. He's from Fox Sports Radio. It's Mr. Brian Noe. What's up, Bino?
Chad, going. Look at you guys. Just thriving. We got YouTube going on here. We got phone lines. Look at you guys prospering.
Yeah, you're prospering too, because every time I look at your social media accounts, you're at some sporting event or it's fight night with your woman, man. That is money right there. Love that.
Fight night.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we need to get to a few. There's a handful of NFL stadiums I still have to check off the list.
What's
so
next on the
we can
list?
start
What's
narrowing it down?
What is one stadium you have not been to yet that you're dying to go to?
I got to go see the Raiders in Vegas. I have yet to go there. And a couple, I'm not dying to see Jacksonville or Houston, but those are a couple on the list that I've still got to check off yet.
Well, dude, you should go on Sunday night to the Raiders, and you can watch Max Crosby set the single-game sack record against the Jets.
He might. You know, what's funny is Gambling No has noticed a little trend of quarterbacks rushing against the Jets. It happened again last night with Justin Herbert. He got over the modest line of 8.5 earlier in the week. It ballooned to about 10.5, 11.5. He still hit the over. So the Jets have the Raiders and Aiden O'Connell, who has not rushed hardly at all. He's got 3 carries for 3 yards in 2 starts on the season. He's got a couple of games with no carries for no yards. So I'm curious if he tucks it and runs, because he does not like doing that whatsoever.
Yeah, now that you've given up the information on this fabulous radio program, he's going to go for like -6 yards.
Well, good, man. I'll tell you, that's misery. If you go college quarterback rushing yardage counts against their individual rushing stats, that is freaking brutal. I don't understand how they still do that.
Brian, are you watching us on YouTube now?
Oh, nice talking with you, brother. He's gone.
What?
Are you there? Yeah, okay.
Hey, what was that again? Now I got you again.
Okay.
He was wanting to know if you were watching us on YouTube right now.
Oh, no, we're driving. We're driving back home, going back home for a couple of days. So on our way to the metropolis of South Bend, which is probably why the phone line was cutting out right there, Dwight. I'm sorry about that.
No, it's okay. It's just we had a picture of you up on the screen, and I got to tell you, it wasn't the most flattering picture.
Yeah,
of
you
I've
might
ever
want to
seen.
request certain pictures like you do walk-up music with Michael Shacker at the controls.
Now we've got a picture of
yeah?
him playing guitar.
Which picture was that of me?
The one where you're just looking back at the camera at some NFL stadium, and then he had the picture of you playing the guitar, which actually with your Halloween mask on, which is actually pretty badass. That was a good photo.
Nice. I'm glad you like that. I might have to change profile pictures to that one right there. I don't know.
I like it. I like it. All right, tell us right now, best team in the AFC, is it Baltimore, Kansas City, or Cincinnati?
Wow. You know what? It might be Cincinnati right now as we speak, but I still think until someone takes down the Chiefs, they're that team to beat. It's just their wide receivers, man. They just seem so vulnerable without a legitimate Tyreek Hill, top-of-the-line wide receiver. We know they still have Travis Kelce, but, man, I don't know if Rice and, like, MVS, and it's like Mahomes is just splicing things together like MacGyver over there, And they just won a Super Bowl. I realize that, but there's only so much the guy can do. It's directly correlated with him having one of the highest interception totals in the league. So I've got my concerns as far as their wide receivers go.
Brian, what was your takeaway from that Miami-Kansas City game?
Man, Dwight, it's the Dolphins' defense is a whole lot better when they have their starting corners out there. So you saw Jalen Ramsey and Xavier Howard. That gives the D coordinator, Vic Fangio, a lot to work with, and they pitched a shutout in the second half. So that was nice to see. They really had their way with the Chiefs outside of that scripted first drive, where they didn't gain very much at all. And one of their touchdowns was that fluky fumble that went back for a touchdown. So the Dolphins' defense was a lot better. The problem is their offense just didn't do very much against that Chiefs defense. The Chiefs defense has been way more consistent throughout the year. So I still think that the Dolphins, you can call me a homer if you want, but I think the narrative is it just sounds better than it will be in actuality. Right now, they haven't beaten a good team. That is a fact. But as they get healthier, like these things called offensive linemen, they're helpful. And they're going down left and right for the Finns. That hurts them dearly. But they went toe-to-toe with what could be the top team in the AFC. So I think they can't beat any good teams. I think that's way overdone.
We're talking with Brian O, Fox Sports Radio here on the Rip City Drive. I know you understand and respect how difficult it is to play quarterback in the NFL. What'd you think about Joshua Dobbs? Just a couple of days, gets into Minnesota. He's trying to practice the cadence with his guys on the sideline. His coach is explaining plays in the headset, in his helmet, and he went out there and got the victory. What was your takeaway on that?
That was awesome, man. That was storybook type stuff. That's movie script type stuff where he's traded on a Tuesday, and he didn't have a practice rep. That's insane. He didn't have one practice rep. He doesn't know everybody's name. And he goes in. We didn't even know what number he was going to be, but Jaron Hall sustains a concussion, suffers a concussion, and it's like, Dobbs, go in there. Yeah, we know you don't know anyone's name, but we'll just tell you what the wide receivers are running and make it work. And he did. He had a couple of fourth down conversions. He's dropping the mic on a key 4th and 7. That's sensational type stuff. I got to interview him on Fox before his rookie season, and he literally was the nicest dude ever. So it's really cool to see him get it done like that. But it's similar to Baker Mayfield. He did that with the Rams last year.
Yeah.
Got traded the week of and made it happen against the Raiders. And then they went downhill pretty fast after that. So I'm really curious, as great as that was, that whole storyline was awesome. I'm really curious where the Vikings go from here. And they might do well, but it's not like written in stone that it's going to continue because of one great outing.
Hey, Brian, what do you think of C.J. Stroud's play so far?
Dwight, I haven't been as wrong as I've been on C.J. Stroud on somebody else in a long time. Like, I thought C.J. Stroud, he had so much talent around him at Ohio State that I thought he would really struggle in his first season in the NFL when he doesn't have half the talent around him as he did in college. So he has been sensational. When you're talking about 14 touchdowns and 1 pick, it's not outrageous to say he belongs in the MVP conversation.
Absolutely.
That's not crazy at all. And for him to do that, to hit the ground running this way, if you're Carolina, how crazy was that, where the same day Stroud throws for 470 and 5 touchdowns, Bryce Young is throwing 3 picks, including 2 awful pick sixes. If you're Carolina, who traded a boatload to get that number 1 overall pick, you got to be sitting there like, man, we might have completely screwed this thing up. But C.J. Stroud, he's been sensational. I've got nothing but good things to say about the guy right now.
Yeah, it's awesome. You know, I'm dying to get your take on the Cowboys and Eagles because it was one of those games where I feel like the Cowboys outplayed them, and I thought Dak played extremely well, but they just couldn't get over, and the Eagles get the job done. What was your take?
Yeah, man, it's tough, right? Because on one hand, you look at Dak, who was really, really good throughout almost the entire game. But then when it came right down to it at the end, he left a couple of plays on the field. The 2-point conversion where his big toe was out of bounds, like KD against the Bucks, you know, like the big toe was on the 3-point line. That was Dak running for the 2-point conversion. If he makes that, they kick a field goal and go to overtime. It changes everything. So you look at that and you say, although Dak played great throughout most of that game, well, it's like this guy named Sam Howell threw for a bunch of yards and a bunch of touchdowns the week prior against the Eagles. So I look at that with Dak and I'm like, can you make the special play at the special time when it matters most? And he answered that question no and no. It was the 2-point conversion that failed. And then when they got down to about the 6-yard line, the next thing you know, he takes an awful sack, and they're like out of the red zone. It's like, how does that happen? So Dak messed up a couple of plays, and that's what it really comes down to. You give him credit for putting that team in the position to be there to win it, but he didn't get them over the hump, and that's what matters most.
Hey, what are your thoughts on 49ers and Jags this week?
That's a great matchup, huh, Dwight?
Great.
Like our guy.
Yeah.
Purdy Palooza.
Yeah, you know,
losing a little steam over there.
I got to tell you, this week I came to the conclusion, I watched Tua that whole game. He's no Brock Purdy, I'll tell you that.
Oh, that is wildly inaccurate, Dwight, but I like the trash talk from you.
Thank you.
Look, man, it's a big game. Big game for the Niners and Purdy. They got to get healthier. Like, listen, we're talking about the Dolphins and how much health matters. It matters for the Niners, too. It matters for everybody.
Yeah.
So you saw the Niners lose 3 straight games, and a lot of that had to do with the injuries. You know, when you don't have Trent Williams out there, huge deal. When you don't have Deebo Samuel, that's a big, big deal. So as the Niners get healthier, they're going to be a tough team. But that's a big game. You got to get back on track. Losing 4 straight does not have a great ring to it.
Oh, no doubt. What about the Lions at Chargers?
That's another great matchup, huh? You get the Lions on the road. The Chargers, they're so annoying, aren't they? Like, gambling Chad can appreciate it.
They are.
The most annoying team in football by far.
Man, if you're betting on that team, Chad, if you're betting on them, they'll just disappear. And you're like, why did I do that? But then if you fade them, like last night seemed like a pretty good spot to fade them. The Jets play great defense. The Chargers have been horrible against the pass. They haven't played good defense all season. And they just showed up last night, and they're like, yeah, we'll have a special teams touchdown. Yeah, we'll force a couple of takeaways.
Yeah.
And we're just going to win by 3 touchdowns. And you're like, okay, cool, I guess. Like, that is a tough, tough team to figure out. So as it relates to the Lions, it wouldn't surprise me at all if they win that game. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if they look terrible and do nothing. I have no great answer for you on what the Chargers are going to do from week to week.
Okay, I got to ask you about another game, college game. The Trojans are at the Ducks this week. Now, do you think Caleb Williams can wipe away the tears long enough to get the Trojans into this game, or do you like the Ducks? Sorry.
Oh, man, that is top shelf trash talk. You are in rare form tonight, Dwight. That is awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's got a whole week to wipe the tears. Man, that wasn't just crying. That was like
sobbing.
Man. Yeah, that was sobbing. That was almost what am I looking for here? What's the like when you're in the womb? What's the pose right there? What is it?
Yeah, he's in the fetal position.
Fetal position. He was almost in the fetal position as he was weeping right there. That was rough. But look, man, he had a great game. They're just no match for Oregon. Just none. They are going to get waxed. What's the point spread on that? How much are the Ducks favored by?
15.
Wow.
Yeah.
When's the last time?
Sounds about right.
It's going to be ugly.
Yeah.
Well, when's the last time USC was a 15-point dog? That's amazing.
Man, it is. This season is unraveled, but their defense.
Oh, it's so bad.
Their defense is freaking brutal. Bo Nix, his stat line is going to be ridiculous. And look, man, they might just go Bucky Irving like Dylan Johnson. How about that? That was so strange to see Washington. Washington plays offense like they're playing Tecmo Bowl. They just throw it. And they're like, you know what? Screw it. Let's play Smash Mouth against USC. They have no answer for it. So for Washington to do that, that just shows you how flawed USC's defense is. Oregon's offense is going to go ballistic. And I do not see USC being able to match points. Oregon plays real defense also.
All right, Bino, give us an update. Where are you doing radio shows from right now?
Oh man, so I'm all over the world. Well, that's a little dramatic. I'm all over the Midwest. Let's put it that way. So I'll do my Fox stuff remotely from wherever I am, and I'll just fill in. I did some fill-in stuff today for Indianapolis, and we'll see. I had a Zoom chat for possible fill-in Philly.
Oh.
Do you think I'd fit in Philly over there? What do you think?
Yes. I want you going up head-to-head with Philly fan. That would be awesome.
That would be a lot of fun, and I'm talking to San Diego on Thursday. So I don't know. Sometimes these Zoom chats turn into something. Sometimes they're like, yeah, this guy sounds like a jackass, and it doesn't turn into anything.
Dude,
so we'll just see how it goes.
I'll be honest with you. The two places where I want you on the most right now, San Francisco and Green Bay. Anywhere in Wisconsin, anywhere close to the Bay Area, and I think you'd be a massive hit. No question about it.
That's awesome, man. Yeah,
I mean, I
I
can't
fill in
believe
for
it.
Milwaukee
Joe
from time
Montana
to time.
2.0. Joe Montana 2.0 is on verge of losing 4 straight. I can't believe it.
Oh, it's crazy, Chad. I mean, I thought this guy walked on quarterback water. You telling me he loses his left tackle in Deebo Samuel and he's a shell of himself?
Oh, I know.
I can't believe this is actually happening. It's weird. It's almost like we were just talking about Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott got off to a red-hot, Purdy-like start when he had like all-pro linemen, leading rusher in football, like Dez Bryant. He had Jason Witten, had all these weapons. And then when the weapons started to, trend the other way, weird. Dak's production trended the other way too. I'm just trying to figure out how this could possibly happen with the almighty Purdy, though. That's crazy.
All right. He's on Twitter at The Nose Show, Fox Sports Radio. The Brian Noe here on the show. You're the best, man. Thank you.
It's always great talking to you guys. Dwight, top shelf trash talking. I love that.
Thank you.
Chad, you're beautiful. I love you guys, and I hope you have a great evening.
You got it. There's Brian Noe, Fox Sports Radio. I love it because Shacker has a lot of respect for Brian Noe. He said he actually feels guilty when he's got to put a football game on the weekends when he's cutting into Brian Noe's national show. He doesn't like that.
Yeah.
That's a true sign of respect.
I understand that.
It's respect. He respects it. I like that, Shacker.
Well, he does such a good show on Saturday and Sunday mornings. It's the pre-kickoff shows.
All right. YouTube is running.
Yeah.
Be sure to go to youtube.com, pull up our homepage, Rip City Radio 620, subscribe, and all of our shows now. Rip City Mornings with Justin Myers, Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad, Blazers Game Day, 5th quarter, and Courtside Mondays, all streaming live on YouTube. So you can check us out. We're here. It's good. Days like today, a little more challenging to figure out, like, what are we going to talk about today? And then it all works out beautifully.
It always does, Chad.
All right. Big thanks to Brian Noe. Big thanks to your boy Q from Vegas, talking a little Raiders with us. And Dave Deckard sharing his thoughts on the Portland Trailblazers. Every Tuesday, we'll have tickets to give away to upcoming Trailblazer games. So always tune in on Tuesdays for your chance to win tickets. And that is about that. So in a light week for me in Trailblazer basketball, which is nice. 2 road games, Wednesday and Sunday. Good spacing. Not eating into my schedule that much. I like that. I need more of that.
Yeah, and I think supposedly it's supposed to be nice on Wednesday.
I'm surprised that Scoot is going to be out again tomorrow.
I am too.
That surprise you?
A lot. Yeah, I mean, he was shooting before the game. He looked like he was fine. I don't know.
Interesting. Oh, well, there's no pressure on him to bring anyone back now.
Yeah.
Play it safe.
Yeah, really. Make sure.
I was impressed on Sunday night before they went ice cold in the 4th. Like, the movement and the activity in that 3rd quarter was spectacular. They were really getting after it.
Yeah.
And multiple guys involved.
Well, the way they're playing, when they make shots, they're going to look great. It's just that we're not going to see them make shots as much as we'd like.
That's an all-timer right there. 26-2 run for Memphis in that game on Sunday. The Blazers did not record a field goal in the final 8-13. And you're like, how's that possible? And you're like, oh, that's why, because they don't shoot well. They just don't shoot. They don't have shooters.
No, they don't. The 3 is so valuable in the league, and when you can't make them, you're in real trouble most nights.
That saying that you hear all the time, make or miss league.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a make or miss league.
There's a reason for saying it. Yeah.
All right, we'll come back and hand out some high fives. All right, high five time. Shacker, you got any high fives you want to hand out? Does Brenda deserve any high fives for her efforts? I heard she fed the crew down at Oregon State this weekend. High five to Brenda?
That was a couple weeks ago, so it's too late to pass out high fives. Let's give a high five to Brian No, to all the YouTube viewers. You got to see him with his guitar and a mask on. He looked like he was playing in that band Ghost. High five to Brian No.
I like it.
For being a metalhead.
Oh, that was loud. Scared me with the high five there.
Yeah.
That's good. All right. I want to give my high five to Chris Burkhart and Joe Standish for their efforts to help get this YouTube deal up and running. Thank you, gentlemen. And Shacker, you deserve a high five, too. You've dealt with a lot today. You've dealt with my flagellants. You've dealt with the meltdown on the computers with the giveaways, and you've had to focus on YouTube live streaming all at the same time. That's a lot. That's a lot to deal with in a day for you, Shacker.
I can do it. I love it. I love this YouTube thing, but
I promise never to fart in front of you again. I vow to exit the room and make sure I do my job the right way.
This time you promise?
I promise.
Can't keep that promise.
I'm going to try my best,
You
though.
know you can't.
I'm going to keep it. I'm going to try my best. Godfather, who's going to get your high five?
You stole mine. Shacker's got to get mine. He's the prince. The prince of multitasking. It was amazing today. All the stuff he does. He's running those contests and taking information and switching the cameras around. I'm very impressed. Chad, I think you need to give him a raise.
Yeah. Yeah. He would agree with that. And I would say that the thing I respect most about Shacker is his willingness to resist authority. He does it with incredible resilience.
He does not care about your authority.
No.
I don't.
He doesn't.
All people that are consider themselves authority are just people that are going to lose their job at the next pandemic. I have no reason to respect anyone that has authauthority right now.
Oh, gosh. Michael,
all
there's
just
people,
temporary. It's
there's
just
people
temporary.
out there listening to this, you know?
That's my Shacker right there. He's
Yeah.
the man.
Yeah, he's yours.
Indispensable, too.
Yeah, he is.
I'm telling you, Shacker, you're more indispensable than you could possibly know. It's okay to flex your muscle once in a while like you did today. It's okay. You know I can't live without you, so I just have to sit there and take it. I can't live and survive in this station without you.
Mike, what did you throw at Chad?
The Clorox wipe.
He didn't throw it at me. He bumped them, and they came flying at me. I don't
Is
think
that
it's-
what it was? I couldn't see.
Yeah, it was good. There's always some type of shenanigans going on before the show.
Show
here.
prep is action-packed.
It's action-packed. It's the worst. It's the only part of the day I dread, and once we get through it, everything else is smooth sailing. It brings great angst, and then once we get through it and the show starts, I'm like, oh, this is much easier than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Every day. It always works out.
Yeah, it does.
It's amazing how when you do something long enough, it's like, oh, I guess we got this.
Well, it's not as if we haven't just sat around talking like this a million times before, on the air and off.
Tony in Portland just hit me up, or Tony, I'm boring now, I should say. In all seriousness, today is a monumental day. My wife and I are celebrating our 25th wedding anniversary.
Wow.
That's pretty freaking awesome right there.
Yeah, congratulations,
Tony.
Tony.
I can speak from my own experience. The fact that you have found a female that's willing to spend 25 years with you is nothing short of a miracle.
Yeah, I would agree. We've both had various chances at that.
Yeah, I didn't even come close. There's not a female on this planet that wants to spend the next 25 years with me. It's not happening. I couldn't pay someone enough to spend 25 years with me.
Chad, I got news for you. There's no male that wants to spend 25 years with you either. I'll give you a good 20, and that's it. Man.
Yeah, 20. It's not happening. What do you do for your 25th anniversary? That's a big deal, isn't it? Is that considered a landmark or a?
Oh yeah, there's and
is that what they call that? A landmark? No, it's a. What kind of a mark is that? It's not a landmark.
Well, it's kind of a landmark.
Yeah, it's a good day. That's a good day. What do you do for 25?
Well, I was gonna look it up because there's summer diamond.
Milestone is what I was looking for.
Oh, milestone. Yeah, that's
Landmark.
better.
What do you
like
do?
a 50 is like gold or diamond or something. 25 is probably something pretty good.
Let's see here. How important I'll do a little Google. So I'll ask Rabbi Google, is 25th wedding anniversary. I'm sure guys have probably Googled this before to make sure they don't jack something up. A silver anniversary is a very significant milestone.
Silver.
In a couple's relationship. It marks the 25 years of marriage, which is why it's also known as the 25th wedding anniversary. The anniversary is often celebrated with gifts, family gatherings, or a special trip to celebrate the couple's journey together.
I hope Tony went out and got something silver for
That's
his
good.
woman.
You're going to get lucky tonight, brother. That's good. 25 years.
Whatever says somebody says, like, you're going to get lucky tonight.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what
I'm
that
not getting
means.
lucky tonight.
No, I was going to say.
That's not going to happen.
No.
My idea of getting lucky is ice cold Diet Coke and have myself a nice meal with puppy shots.
Sit back in the lazy boy. Yeah.
Lazy boy's lucky.
Yeah, sometimes getting lucky is not getting lucky, you know?
The lazy boy is bomb, though, man.
Oh, man.
Whoever came up with the idea to put a power control on that bad boy, genius. And Gretchen's the best, too.
Yeah, she is.
Walks you around, shows you all the different chairs. The problem is it's hard to pick and choose between the lazy boys because they all feel pretty dandy.
Yeah, I couldn't find one that felt any better than the other one. They were all good. It was just a matter of, you know, what kind of covering it had and how big it was and all that. But I have a friend who just got one. He had been with the old, you know, like a Barco Langer or something for years. He said, "Oh man, I'm glad I listened to you guys."
He took advantage.
Oh yeah. He went. I think one of the sales that we had, and he picked it up. He loves it.
What's his first name?
Don.
Don's strategy for comfort. He figured it out.
Mm-hmm.
Lazy boy, baby.
Yeah, Don, if you're listening, appreciate it.
Yeah, nice work, Don. Well, I think we set a record for high fives in this segment. We did give Brenda one, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, it was a statute of limitations was passed for her high five.
Okay.
Mike's got more rules than I can keep track of. What is that statute of limitations on high fives?
2.5 weeks.
Okay.
Oh.
All right. We're back tomorrow. Rip City Drive from 3 to 4:30, and then I'll have game day from 4:30 until 6. Blazers will tip off down in Sacramento. That's the old Murray Bowl. Keegan Murray and Chris Murray going head-to-head.
Yeah.
Hopefully Chauncey will give some love to Chris and get him in the game. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'll be recording that game while I'm at AEW Wrestling. Can't wait.
That might be more exciting than the Blazers and Kings, come to think of it.
I'm meeting the godnephew over there.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you have a good time, and I'll see you tomorrow for the show. You'll hang out with me for 90 beforehand?
I'll be here. Yeah, I will.
All right. Big thanks to our guest. Dave Deckard's awesome. We love him. Your boy Q from Las Vegas, and Brian Bino. For Michael Shacker and Dwight, I'm Chad. You guys have a good night. Thank you for joining us on YouTube. Make sure to go to YouTube, pull up our homepage, Rip City Radio 620, subscribe, and you can find our live streams there every day.